how the real world is heading towards in the 21st century.
First set of podcast with Professor Jawahar Nesan. How the AI is shaping the new reality.
AI is going to be more computationally better and powerful than a human thinking and human being. The AI should be carefully handled in educational institutions. The human role will become subordinate, and it is going to be passively led in the 21st century. The artificial superintelligence in the most desirable manner so that we are not lost. In future, it is going to be more significant than ever before. The reason is
why there is a necessity of introducing epistemology to students.
The epistemology as a course is totally preparing 6 months them, and the rest 3.5 years they will be applying this in the rest of the courses. Epistemology is the foundation for all these skills. What kind of job that they are going to have? Predominantly it is epistemic job. The humankind is expected to be more agentic, self-reflective, self-regulative and self-reactive. Our education has to now focus on the epistemic skills. That is what going to be the major 21st century skills. This is very much important, that the humankind should not lose its thinking process. That is society, that is industry, that is production. But that doesn't happen those things are not happening in educational settings. And these ideas are the stepping stones, are the foundations for the innovation.
Hello and welcome everyone. Today in the studio of Jain University, we are opening up with the first set of podcast with Professor Jawahar Nesan. Professor Nesan has been an academic of international repute, an institutional builder, an ardent defender of critical thinking and social epistemic virtues. He is an engineering educator with sustained contributions to research, advanced technical education, and institutional academic development. With this, I welcome you, Professor Nesan. Now, let's begin it with some basic question regarding how the AI is shaping the new reality. Since agentic AI has arrived, due to the arrival of agentic AI, the human-AI relationship has taken a new turn in digital era, how the new agency is evolving, and the role from being the developer, originator, crafter of an idea to just being the facilitator of that idea or being a part of that reality. How do you see that change happening in the world?
I think that before that, I would like to comment on how the real world is heading towards in the 21st century. In the 21st century, the human relations, human productions, and human endeavors in all respect are getting changed, are getting transformed as stimulated by the technological and modern science influence. So in this case, I feel that when the human production is fundamentally getting changed, wherein the means of production and the role of labor in production and technologically driven production process and the role of modern science all are largely influencing the human capacity. The human capacity is getting altered, and a new skill, new competence, and new knowledge is warranted in this, with the advent of this technology and modern science. So having this backdrop, the humankind is going through a large-scale psychologically troubled conditions. So psychologically troubled conditions which is playing a major role in human relations. And also, every humankind individually and collectively as a society has to be very much, alert, in the sense that they have to take decisions, make judgments at every instance, in every issue and endeavors they are involved. So in this way, I feel that humankind is expected to be more agentic than ever before. But AI is becoming more agentic now. And imagine a situation where AI is going to be more agentic as opposed to the human, which is going to be passive in nature, which is not agentic, means then the human role will become subordinate, and it is going to be passively led in the 21st century, the rest of the 21st century. So in this case, I feel that there is a balance that we have to maintain between the agentic AI and the agentic human transactions. So that means that humankind is expected to be more self-reflective, self-regulative, and self-reactive. Only then the interest of the humankind or the various problems that the humankind is facing or the real world is facing will be addressed properly in the interest of a balanced existence. So that means that what I feel is that the agentic nature of human transactions is expected to play a major role if at all the humankind is to preserve its evolution in the most desirable way. So that means that what education should do in this, in preparing the kids, the children, and the youths towards this, is the basic fundamental question education sector is facing. And also the society in which education happens, the sociality by which education is being pursued as a social function, all matters now. So that means we are looking for a large scale transformation in all respect, in education, in society, in human production, and human relations, and so on. So that means the gist what I'm trying to emphasize now is like the humankind is expected to be more agentic in all its transactions. So that means self-regulative, self-reactive, and self-explorative and self-assertive. And that means that we have to be really thinkers, and we should know how to utilize and use agentic AI or artificial superintelligence in the most desirable manner so that we are not lost.
Okay. So, as you rightly call that, there is a significance of somehow rescue the human agency, right? Because there is a threat after the arrival of artificial intelligence's agency, which can create a world altogether, may not be suitable enough for humans. So now, on the similar note, this question is that where we as humans, as epistemic agents, can place our role, and why there is a necessity of introducing epistemology to in general students and also to students who are graduating in more sort of a technical disciplines like engineering. So what is your take on it, sir?
I think that basically humankind is a thinkable, sentient being. And that means that we cannot lose our thought process with the advent of any or interference or distortion by any technology or any other interventions whatsoever. So that means that this is very much important, that the humankind should not lose its thinking process. That is the basic thing,
Okay.
wherein episteme plays a major role and epistemology plays a major role. So the epistemic pursuits and epistemic skills are very much required for the 21st century humankind, human beings, more than ever before. The reason is, as I said before, the agentic AI. When agentic AI is going to be self-regulative and self-reactive and self-reflective, and in that situation, when AI is going to be more computationally better and powerful than a human thinking and human being, and it can produce more intelligence than human beings, then the thought process wherein that we are better than the artificial intelligence, whereas we are less in intelligence than the AI, that dichotomy wherein we will be entrapped between these two ends, how are we going to survive and how are we going to, involve in all human endeavors we are supposed to involve in, are going to be, the major questions. So in this case, episteme and epistemic skills and epistemic pursuits are going to play a major role in all human endeavors. So far, human beings have been thinking. They are producing knowledge, and they are producers, and they are simultaneously the byproducts of social system. So these are the two things. They are the product as well. They are the producers in the overall pattern in which the human beings are thinking. But the major, the platform, the pattern in which they are thinking is the social system as a social function, and which they cannot separate their thought process away from this social system, are the major constraints in which they have been thinking so far. But in future, it is going to be more significant than ever before. The reason is because of the technological interference and disruptions in the human thought process or in the intelligence that we are going to get out of the technologies. We have to be so assertive, and we have to be thinking, and we have to be creative, and we have to be critical. Only then we will be able to make better decisions and judgments. So in this manner, that every human being is supposed to be idea creator or a thinker, and only then they can survive, or they can meet their livelihoods or the challenges they face or the human productions in which they are involved. So for that matter, education has to now focus on the epistemic skills. That is what going to be the major 21st century skills that every education institution should foster. Okay. And that is why at Jain University we have started ever first epistemology as a course. And this course is aiming to prepare the students how to think and how to perceive the real world, how to be critical of those perceptions, and how to make judgments and how to make decisions out of it. Not only that, how to take action upon it. That is where the human agency comes in. So the will, we talk about the will of human being, and the actions that they are going to act upon upon the decisions and judgments and perceptions and ideas they get out of the epistemic pursuits are going to govern the human production in the 21st century. That means without epistemic skills, they cannot be critical, they cannot pursue research, they cannot attain or acquire the personality required to involve in these pursuits. So that means that in all respect, that for the human being to involve in production, involve in family institutions, involve in society, involve in polity, in all respect, I think that this is very much important. So that is why the epistemic skills, including the critical thinking skills and innovations, especially which is very much important for engineering studies, and research, which is not the traditional conventional academic research I'm talking about. Research means it's a scientific inquiry, and it is part and parcel of our epistemic activities as well in academic settings, and the personality.
So in a similar vein, I have a question, sir. If a discipline like epistemology, which is part of a philosophy, considered to be more abstract, quite deeper, is introduced to the engineering student, how do you see that they can take it at that level, and how that is supposed to be executed to actually get the results in terms of, making them understand how AI human interactions are happening and what kind of challenging deeper questions they are encountered with to rescue and free themselves in a true manner to engage with the real life experiences, the world reality they encounter with?
See, actually, that I would bring to your notice the recent Nobel, the concept for which Nobel Prize on Economy was awarded just 2025 last year. So you could notice that the last year's 2025 economic, the Nobel Prize for Economy was awarded for the concept of creative destruction.
Okay.
It is that you have to ideate, and you have to create idea, and you have to be the producer of ideas for you to innovate. And when you innovate, then you will have stakes in the human production, eventually in the economy. So that means innovation is going to drive economy in the rest of the 21st century. That is what people are talking about. So if innovation is driving it, then ideation is the basis. Then ideation comes after what? It is after your epistemic activities, after your thought process. You must be basically a thinker.
Yes.
And you must basically ideator, idea producer. So that means you have to be a producer in the 21st century, idea producer, then you get your stakes in production, whether you are engineer or not, or any other professional. You have to ideate. And especially in engineering, if technology is going to drive the economy in the 21st century, and the technology is basically engineering. And that means, and with all engineering skills, with only engineering principles, you cannot ideate,
Yeah.
So that means you have to you should know as an engineer how to visualize and perceive the real world, and how to take stock of and critically view the real world, so that you are identifying the problems, and you are identifying, preparing, or producing solutions for the problems. And the whole perception of the real world an engineer is going to involve in is going to give the glimpse of the new world, or identify the new problem, eventually create ideas. And these ideas are the stepping stones, or the foundations for the innovation.
Okay.
So that means innovation leads to production.
Okay.
So this is the pathway in which every engineer is going to travel in the rest of the 21st century.
Okay.
For that, they need to be thinkers first, ideators first, and they need to perceive how the real world works.
Okay.
And they are not so far trained for that. So quote any one engineering college in India preparing the students how to critically view the real world, to create ideas, to identify ideas.
Truly, it's
See, one thing is that the engineers are basically ideators first. And for that, they need to have epistemic skills.
Okay. So,
without having this, please.
So that means you are hinting towards that it's not just the machine learning purely done with the intention of efficiency or to make it more faster or mathematical computational skills. Rather, the design of even machine learning, how it operates. Somewhere epistemology could be utilized there. Like, is it so, sir? Like,
Yes,
even at
perfectly.
the design, the way the model of AI designed with some idea, it may generate some ethical questions regarding the identification question, or sort of a more moral question which are immediate enough to be answered. So is it so that you are hinting towards that?
So on one hand, that even in their own applications, engineering applications, they have to be idea creators. So they have to be ideators. Say, as you said, that rightly said, that AI is also an idea.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is also an idea. And engineers are producing the AI. Scientists are producing the AI. So based on the idea they develop. So ideation is there in every engineering applications. See, engineering means it is the application of modern science and engineering design principles for the benefit of the larger society. And you are trying to offer engineering solutions, technological solutions for the social problems the society faces, or any other problem that an individual is facing. So that means that it is like the epistemology, is preparing the students, the youths, the children to first perceive the problem first. We are talking about problem solving.
Yes.
Problem solving as a teaching learning method, everyone is talking about now. And how to approach a problem is the first. The first step is how to perceive the problem is the basic thing. Solving the problem is the rest. You may have a lot of tools and techniques and approaches and sciences and scientific methods in approaching a problem, solving a problem. But that is the second. But approaching the problem means you have to identify and recognize there is a problem in the first place. And without having an epistemic skill, how will you approach the problem? How will you recognize the problem in the first place? So unless you critically view the real world, unless you have the skills to perceive ideas out of it, you are not going to recognize the problem. Unless you recognize a problem, you are not going to create ideas.
Okay.
Unless you create the ideas, you are not going to innovate it. Unless you innovate it, you don't have any livelihood, you don't have any space in the future human production. So this is going to be the future of this world. And for that, most of the education institutions are not preparing
Yes.
the kids.
That's where I'm coming at. That now your approach to even understand the idea of engineering and to prepare the students for 21st century in a more robust sense, by bringing in some of the core concepts of epistemology so that they can, in a free sense, understand the world around them before they are creating or engineering anything. So how this thought, even which never existed in India, particularly in engineering departments, institutions, colleges, that you conceived, and how do you plan to take it ahead, right? And do you find some empirical evidences for it? It can be validated, because this is the first sort of experiment, not only I believe in India, but across the world. And there are good results so far that the students are truly cherishing it. So what is a broader vision behind it to somehow revamp the education of engineering, or to take it ahead at another level, or is it just sort of a first beginning, or we are yet to unfold with some new ideas?
It's a really a very good question, actually. It's interesting. The thing is, yes, of course, it's the first of its kind in India we are talking about. And with the help of the experts we have in our institution, we have conceived this idea. And we are now offering the course with epistemology lab with all resources, including the classroom architecture, the fittings and fixers, and then smart boards and lot of technological tools that we are using now. Anyway, this is not a physical infrastructure, but the idea, the concept of epistemology so far has been discussed and perceived in the philosophical world. And people have been thinking about it's for the philosophers to talk about.
Yes.
And but many proponents like Paulo Freire, and he just bent and he conceived some schema to make epistemology work at the bottommost level to liberate the people from the oppression. So he called the pedagogy of the oppressed. So through that he was trying to prepare the people to think and self-reflective and self-reactive, and so that they can apply the human agency and then they can liberate out of the oppression. So that is in a broader sense in society. But in educational institution, in the academic, as part of the academia, how to prepare the youths who are studying with us to think is the major focus, as I said before, in the 21st century human production, wherein engineers are going to be absorbed and placed. So in this condition, if they are not able to empathize the ideas, the problems, the challenges that the society faces, the environment faces, they like climatic conditions. It's also empathizing with the environment, is not only the fellow human being. So empathizing with all the rest of the real world that they encounter with is going to give them the glimpse of what it is, what the problems are, so that they will be able to conceive it, and then using their engineering design principles, using their technologies, using modern science, they will be able to apply and come out with better solutions for that. Okay. That is the idea. So that means this has never been, in my opinion, I should not say never been. To my knowledge, I haven't seen that this approach has been implemented in academic setting. Because human perceptions and observing the real world and overcoming the challenges people are facing are discussed or applied or practiced in a wider platform. That is society. Okay. That is industry. Mm-hmm. That is production. But that doesn't happen those things are not happening in educational settings. That means that we are facing a gap between what is happening there in society, at production, at family institutions, at social institutions, at polity, at national, level, and as opposed to the education that we cater education in preparing the students ready for that real world. So that gap, I feel that in 21st century is the epistemic skills. And people are talking about critical thinking, talking about, real world problem solving and decision making, judgment. Of course, these are all the 21st century skills, but it is not one-off that we can inculcate all these skills with one-off approaches. So that means there must be a foundation stone, so that a foundation, a platform wherein we prepare the kids ready for critical thinking, ready for problem solving, ready for judgments, decision making, which are the 21st century skills. And I feel that epistemology is the foundation for all these skills. Okay. If students are exposed to the epistemology and with epistemic skills, we are planning to immerse the students in the thought process, in the thinking process, with real live experiences, not by course, not by theory. So it is an act of immersing the students in the thought process, how to think, how to perceive, how to analyze, how to infer, how to realize, how to reason. All those things are the foundations for the 21st century skills like problem solving, critical thinking, and so on. So that is missing in most of the institutions. So that is the foundation. I thought that if we offer the epistemology, and through that if we inculcate the epistemic skills, and wherein we are also fostering one of the main things is social epistemic virtues. See, I think that is another point I would like to, if you allow me to extend this point. So in the epistemology, we are talking about epistemic skills. That is, basically in raw terms, it is thinking skills. Okay. How to think, no problem. But when you are involved in the thought process, you have to empathize, you have to perceive, you have to deal with the real world. It is not inward. It is not subjective alone. It is objective as well. So that means without having gone through the interaction with the real world, how will you think? And that is where empathy and other attitudes and social virtues are playing major roles. So when you, I, and everyone are perceiving the same real world, and we all are getting different perceptions, and there must be a common perception which is true or which is real, which we may differ each other. So what is the truth and what is the reality matters more. And that means when you're talking about interacting with the real world and the real world objects, that means you must have the certain virtues to appreciate what you perceive, to understand what you perceive. And those virtues we consider like equality, democratic behavior, tolerance, and associated living, conjoint communicated experience, and cooperative mutualism. These are all the major epistemic virtues one should have to epistemically involve and perceive the real world. So without having this, you will be biased. So for that, how many of us, I'm asking you, how many of us have these virtues? Basically, you take for instance 140 crore people are there in India. And you randomly, without having, investigating this statistically, you can say that most of us are not fit for it.
True.
Most of us lack these virtues.
Indeed.
And we are biased in our perception, in our judgment, in our decisions.
Yes.
Because we are self-centered. And we lack all these virtues. Without these virtues, one cannot, neutrally or truly perceive the real world. So in that way, we are in this process of inculcating the epistemic skills, we are also inculcating social epistemic virtues, which play a major role in epistemic process. So that means unless they have these qualities, the virtues, they are not going to epistemically succeed in perceiving the real world, understanding the real world. So that means we are simultaneously preparing the students with the social epistemic virtues, which is not only social epistemic virtues, but scientific virtues.
Yes.
They are social virtues. And in larger perspective, we are grooming and preparing the students with all these qualities to fit into the 21st century requirements.
Okay. So that means rescuing human agency, giving more premises, significance to human agency, making them critical or enabling their abilities to think rationally, so that as it is being said by Heidegger, like we need to have the free relation with the technology.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll become the standing rivers. So
True.
On that note, that free relation we shall have, that I can truly see in your vision, that you are aiming for that kind of a vision wherein human is completely given liberty in terms of experiencing this technology AI-led world.
True.
And not only you are stopping it there, but you are taking it at the epistemic to moral levels, wherein we are not just training them to think critically and that's it.
Yeah.
Rather, we are taking them to become better human being. So
True.
epistemology, the critical thinking is linked with the morality in a larger societal framework. Epistemology can benefit or create the more better human beings which are required for a sustainable future of the humanity. So is it so that somehow morality is essential part of your epistemic rational vision wherein a human being is absolutely free?
That's why I put morality in terms of virtues. I
Okay.
use the,
Okay.
I'm more comfortable with the terminology virtues
Okay.
as opposed to morality, because morality is always subjective. To the left wing, right wing, to them differently they perceive morality.
Yes, that's-
So let us talk about virtues.
Yes.
But one thing I would like to highlight this is a human being is a producer, simultaneously product of social system. Is a social producer, simultaneously product of social system. That means a producer means not just making a physical product. Ideation is a producer. And very much in 21st century, idea is the prerequisite and one of the core raw materials for human production. So that means that is where epistemology and other things are playing a major role. But to answer your question, the main the core challenge here is, you said that morality and other areas play a role and that we inculcate. But the thing is, humankind is always facing shortages, challenges in terms of widening the gap between the haves and have-nots. That is one thing. And another thing is the changing dimension of the jobs and the task of the job. Nature of the job in 21st century is completely different.
True.
So for that we have to prepare, Okay. See, everything, take agriculture, take manufacturing, and take any other sectors in human production. And everywhere, people are marginalized. I'm talking about general all people. I'm not talking about oppressed, suppressed, and depressed. In all respect, in general, people are, marginalized. And technology is playing a major role. So that means, in this case, it is human production is monopolized in some ways because of automation, because of mass production, because of massive requirements, because of the kind of logistics and supply chain, the changing dimensions in logistics and supply chain, and the consumption pattern. In all respect, the human human production is monopolized towards the largeness, the larger pattern, wherein an individual is completely ignored. An individual involved in human production is completely ignored now. And it is somehow, it is facing irrelevance also. So that means ignorance, they are ignored, nullified. Human beings are made irrelevant, means then what else the humankind will have in changing dimensions of the job? What kind of job that they are going to have? Predominantly it is epistemic job.
Okay.
And even though they are laborers and physically and manually they are going to contribute also, still then they are required to contribute with episteme, with knowledge, with the outcome of the thought that they go through in their production process, whether labor or non-labor work. So that means in changing dimensions, they require certain skills, that is what, certain skills, certain attitudes and behavior. That is why I call it as social epistemic virtues.
That means the early set of values which were relevant, or the logic of production which was relevant for the industrial or post-industrial, that means informational society, may not be relevant in 21st century after the more advanced and sophisticated arrival of artificial intelligence. So since humanity has progressed very fastly, because now early information age was there, a bit of more advanced mechanization, sophisticated technologies, but now artificial intelligence. So for that entire schema, a new sort of paradigm is emerging. So wherein future is being located, like after some time, what kind of future this advanced AI technology can bring for the humanity, or is it a kind of neopet or a new paradigm that humanity will completely be changed, everything will be done under this, whether it's agriculture or the way we think, the way we live, eat, organize ourselves, and their social relations will get formulated around it. So how do you see it, sir, after 5-10 years, this new age will get unfold, and that's where how significant the epistemology is to make them realize to think of these questions.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
a
please.
really very fantastic question, actually. You see, the way we interact with each other now, you compare this 30 years ago, is totally different. The way we communicate with each other is totally different from 30 years now. And the way we consume commodities, we consume eatables, are completely different the way we have been doing 30 years ago. So that means already we are going through the process of the transformation. Already knowingly or unknowingly, we are going through that transformation. So I wouldn't say that it is largely because of AI, but it is a collective transformation. And take social institutions, family institution, and polities are crumbling now. Nationhoods, the conventional nationhoods are being redefined now. So the polities, national polities are now crumbling and the barriers are broken. So that means a kind of oneness is being inculcated by the technological revolution so that people can easily share and accommodate each other in due course of time. So the same happens in the human production. So that means the AI, as you asked, is not going to completely, be the impetus for us, for the humankind, for the total transformation of the humankind. But it plays a crucial role. And where I would like to highlight or reiterate the point I made in the beginning, the agentic transactions.
Okay.
So the agentic transaction is the major role. Why we need to be agentic as a human being in the past, minus technologies and modern science in the past, because somebody was oppressing somebody else. Somebody was disturbing somebody else. Some societies were obstructing some other societies. So eventually the terminologies like, the keywords like oppression, suppression, depression, and people were prevented from thinking and be assertive and self-reflective. And that is why they were enslaved economically, socially, politically, that the world has witnessed so far.
True.
And that was the human, between human and human. It was easy to overcome that. It may be not easy, but because of the power, political power and other sources, we have been struggling or overcoming. There are a lot of positive and negative histories in the world we have witnessed. But now, we are talking about more than that. It is already there, unresolved. It is there, pending. The agentic transactions of the oppressed and depressed are the common man. Let us talk about the common man, who is prevented from thinking and being self-assertive and self-reflective. And it is there, pending, already unresolved, but now agentic AI is coming. So when AI is going to be self-reflective,
Okay.
and self-working, self-regulating, then with this condition, the dichotomy between the agentic AI and human agenticism, and between these two, there must be something to be some rapport should be created, some balance should be maintained, and something should happen between these two. Otherwise, the humankind will lose its potential. And whoever is behind the agentic AI is going to topple or rule the world. And again, the gaps and inequalities and the loss of jobs and the loss of production and loss of stakes in the economy, all will be faced by the humankind rest in the world over. So that means that is the AI should be carefully handled in educational institutions in preparing the children and the youths to make them agentic and involve them in agentic transaction so that they know how to use the agentic AI or artificial superintelligence or any other intelligence that is going to be, invented in the future. Because the future is going to be largely driven by the artificial intelligence or agentic AI or the modern science like quantum physics. And quantum is going to rule partially the production like a hardware, and AI is a software. So both are going to govern the humankind in all respect. So that means unless the humankind is agentically prepared in all its transactions and with all relevant skills through educational institutions, our kids and children and youths are going to be highly, highly irrelevant in the future. And especially in undemocratic societies. Wherever societies are undemocratic, wherever societies are unequal, wherever societies are facing a large gap between the haves and have-nots and production and economic stakes, then they have to be agentically transactive. Otherwise, it is not. So that is why epistemic, for them to be agentically transactive, they have to be thinkers. They have to be idea creators. They have to be problem solvers. They have to be critical thinkers. They have to apply human agency to overcome the challenges. And epistemology as a course is totally preparing 6 months them, and the rest 3.5 years, they will be applying this in the rest of the courses, the other courses. So holistically, BTech or BE or whatever the program that we offer are going to prepare them in the first year with these skills, with these attitudes, with social epistemic virtues and epistemic skills, and they are going to apply it in the rest of the courses in all 3.5 years, the rest of the program. Okay. So that means holistically, my engineers, our students and youths are going to be the best agentic transactive humans.
Okay. That means that they shall use the technology as an instrument instead of being engrossed by the technology and losing the human-centered vision of the humanity, possibly, yes. Right? So with this note, thank you so much, sir. Now I would just, with a brief question, request you to please address these students that, somehow why it is significant in brief directly to engineering students. That's nowhere it is happening. And also I would request you to draw what kind of future the institutions can have in India if they are lacking such kind of a vision. And that can cost into the loss of nation in terms of educational development or holistic developments of the students. So I will precisely would like that how do you see this at all? How would you recommend the other institutions or the developers of the institutions to take it more seriously on that note to safeguard our youngsters from getting into a future which can plunge them into absolute irrationality, possibly. True. So yeah, just please.
As a final note, you see, the last year's 2025 Nobel laureate was telling us prescriptive knowledge and propositional knowledge. Prescriptive knowledge is codified knowledge. And with codified knowledge, we can upgrade or upskill our students with the prescribed ideas, prescribed steps involved in lab experiments and studies and applications. These are all very simple. Now, in the future, these prescriptive skills are going to be, sourced out from many sources, like robot teachers and like net and with AI. All are going to give how to make a recipe easily. Thousands of variations you can get from the net now. AI will tell you. For that, you need not have to go back to some experts and sit with them and learn from them what it is. But the tacit part of the preparations, the tacit part of preparing a recipe is what the agentic part of the human thinking. So that means that agentic part is what epistemologists should do that. So far, even till today, there are 1,000 plus universities in this country, and there are 50,000 colleges in this country, and several lakhs schools are in this country. So let us talk about higher education. In higher education, and this is virtually lacking, that they stop with the prescriptive knowledge. Say, take BTech B programs. So far we have been doing that. Even now we are doing that. And I don't see a sign of a large-scale mobility among the institutions and universities in this country towards preparing the students towards propositional knowledge. Prescriptive knowledge is there. It is reported in the text. It is reported in the literature. And the teachers are vomiting those in the classrooms. And students are better prepared for the prescriptive knowledge. That is operative knowledge, that anyone can do it. And for that, a teacher need not have to be there. That is my point is that a teacher need not have to be there in the classroom to teach prescriptive knowledge.
Okay.
And that is codified knowledge. What I'm talking about is the tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge means it's propositional knowledge. You must be the source of knowledge yourself. And you must come out self-reflective with your knowledge, with your understanding. Only then it matters to me as a producer in the production process. Otherwise, you are not wanted.
Okay, sure.
So you have a prescriptive knowledge. Somebody else has the same prescriptive knowledge. Between these two, why should I choose one of you when both are same? What I want is that propositional knowledge means, I'm quoting the Nobel laureate.
Okay.
He says, propositional knowledge maker is going to be innovator. Innovator is going to govern the economy. Because technology-driven economy in the rest of the century. That means the innovator, must be a maker of propositional knowledge.
Okay.
That is not my words. It's the Nobel laureate's words. If I believe that, then I would say propositional knowledge is tacit. It's not prescriptive. It's not codified. That means the tacit part can be inculcated only through epistemic skills.
Yes.
Without epistemic skills, how are you going to make or produce propositional knowledge? So I want all my students in this country, not only in my university, the total country, India, should prepare the children, the youths, to inculcate them and prepare them with epistemic skills so that they make propositional knowledge. That is the idea.
Okay. So,
and that they are going to involve in innovation. They will have stakes in the production and they cannot be ignored. They will be relevant in 21st century human production.
Okay, that means if we translate it in the curriculum framework, it's a shift from theory to practical based exercise and learning.
It is pedagogically, it is practice. Of course, the practice based is there. But even in the theory, you have to think.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have to be reflective.
Okay.
And that is propositional.
Okay.
And that is what I mean. The whole India should now step into that.
So with that, thank you so much, Professor Nesan, for taking us time and enlightening us on various topics which are not only contemporary significant to us, but also which have larger significance in terms of future. It will help us, students, all of us, to see how things are located, where institutions, and why the human critical thinking is significant, wherein we are at the verge of being replaced by the new artificial intelligence. Truly, thank you so much. We are indebted to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ishrat.
Thank you. So with that, it was our first podcast from Studio Lab of the Jain University. Today we had Professor Jawahar Nesan, who is an expert in this area, who spoke about why epistemology is something which is significant for the new generation learners, particularly for the engineering students who shall develop and inculcate these social epistemic virtues, which are the ardent requirements of the new age, not only in 2026, but also in another next 5-10 years. The requirement, necessity of these virtues is something which is primitive to keep human being at the center to design, create and develop anything. I hope this interview will bring many insights which are significant to all of us, to our students and also the audience at large. Thank you so much for watching us. Stay tuned. Thank you.